Welcome everyone to the mini-series about the making of my first feature film, Evol. So in this series, I'm going to be breaking down, the process of making this feature-length film and what it was like to make this coming from a college student. I'm entering my junior year of college, so it should give you a perspective of how what it took to make this film. So yeah, this is the first episode. We'll be talking about the story, how I came up with the idea, and how I found out that this would be my first feature-length film. So without further ado, let's get started.
Yeah, ooh, baby, why you looking so smooth, baby? I'ma make you my new lady, cause you're making my mind go crazy, yeah.
So after releasing my last film in 2019, I decided to sit down and start coming up with ideas of what I wanted to do next. I always knew that I wanted to do romance next, just because if you look back at all the films I've made, they've all been, either action and adventure, or horror, or comedy, or drama, stuff like that. So, romance was a genre that I haven't done before, and it was an idea that felt right. I would look at all the romance films that would come out, and they all were pretty much the same. So I wanted to tell a story that, was a bit more realistic. A story that didn't really have a happy ending, if you know what I mean. So, yeah, I mean, that's the, what I decided to stick with. With all of my films, I always have, little pieces of ideas that I wanted to, I always have ideas for. So, for Evol, I've always had ideas laid out in a sense, way before writing the first draft. I always knew what the end scene would be. I always knew, what some of the characters would be. For example, Devin and Nate, those are characters that I knew I wanted in the film. I pretty much, have, bullet list of what I wanted to do before writing the first draft. The only thing I didn't know until it happened was it being a feature-length script. The script was 90 pages, I think, the first draft. The second draft was even longer. The third draft got even longer. The fourth draft was shorter, but still in that feature-length, bubble. We're in the feature-length territory now. And that's something I didn't really plan on doing. It just happened. It's because Evol, there's so much happening in the story, and there's so much that I need to, build towards. You know what I mean? In the first two acts, I had to make sure that Chris had this false narrative that Amy was liking him. Also, I had to build foundations for Ben and Amy slowly getting together. Those were stuff that I couldn't do in that 20 minutes like my other films. This film, I needed more screen time to do that. And that's something I didn't plan on. When I was writing the script, I didn't plan on it being a feature-length script. You know what I mean? It just happened to be like that, because that's how the story was developing. With all of my scripts, I don't plan beforehand, how long I want it to be. It just happens, My other films, whatever felt right for the story, that was the screen. That was the duration of it. So, for this one, the duration became the feature-length level, if that makes any sense. I briefly talked about this, but, going back to the characters, it was a lot easier writing these characters because they're characters that I know well, because they're characters that are more grounded in reality. Characters that are more realistic because these are characters that are in my age group. Graduating high school, entering college, that age group was not only the characters, but also the demographic for the movie. So, writing Chris, writing Amy, writing Ben, writing Devin, writing Nate especially. Those Devin and Nate especially were characters that were pretty much my take on the culture of, the teenage culture. Nate with, him trying to fit in, so he starts juuling or vaping. And him later realizing that vaping isn't the solution, isn't really... You can't fit in. You can't vape to fit in, if that makes any sense. People vape to fit in. That's my take on it. And also Devin, who is obsessed with girls, and he will do anything he craves women's attention pretty much, but at the same time, he won't cross that line. So he has a limit in a way. I feel like a lot of movies, that are teenage movies, they write characters that are either 100% good or 100% bad. What I tried to do with all the characters in Evil was to put them in the middle. Not everyone is good, but not everyone is bad. Like the love triangle with Chris, Amy, and Ben, you can look at it in the sense that like everyone was in the wrong, but at the same time, not everyone was in the wrong. You know what I mean? Like they're both wrong, but they're also both not wrong. All of those characters could have done things differently to prevent the ending of the movie. But at the same time, you could blame one of those for what happened. There is no protagonist. There is no antagonist. Everyone is in the middle, and I like to believe that is what I achieved with Evil. So yeah, going back to the script, after finishing the final draft and really realizing that this movie, Evil, is my feature length, my first ever feature length, one would expect to be, nervous or anxious about heading into a feature length project. But for me personally, I didn't really see it like that. I saw this as just like my other films. It kind of sounds bad, but at the same time, it's not, because I treated it as if it was another 20-minute movie, another 10-minute, another 5-minute type of thing, Even though I know that this is a feature-length movie, and I try to, take it more, like, be more cautious in a sense. Like, I did a lot more reshoots with this movie than I have done with any of my other stuff. I've done a lot of, rehearsals, I guess you can say. Like, before filming a scene, we would go through the lines and make sure what we want to say, how we want to say it, and if the line works with the character, So stuff like that I try to be more cautious about. But overall, this is my first feature-length film, but I also treated it as if it was just another project for me. And also, what helps is that with all of my movies, they're all one-man band, It's me. I'm writing it. I'm directing it. I'm, operating the camera, the equipment. I'm operating that. The boom mic, that's also me. So I'm filling up all the caps, so it helped in a sense because I know exactly what was going on. I'm very hands-on with what's happening. Like, if the microphone is too close to the actors or in the shot, I know that. So I can just walk over, change, the microphone, and we'll be good. Stuff like that, But yeah, as I said before, I wasn't expecting Evil to be my first feature-length film. At the same time, I wasn't backing away from it. I was ready to pull the trigger on Evil and make sure this is the greatest film I've ever made. Yeah, so in terms of gear, I've pretty much used the usual, I guess, not high-end cinema cameras or anything like that. I used the video Rode mic for the audio. I used the Canon T5i, a DSLR. I had some LED lights that I used. So, I didn't do anything fancy, in a sense. I used what I've had before, and just went with it, The only difference between this short films in general and this feature-length film is just the filming is longer, the script is longer, and yeah, I mean, you have to make sure that you fit, you're aware that this is a full-length movie, you know what I mean? Yeah, I mean, in terms of just filming in general, it was pretty much the same as my, other short films and stuff. I'll get more into that when we get to the episode talking about the filming process. But yeah, I mean, the only difference was it just took longer to make, which is expected. It's a longer script, a feature-length project, not a short film. So yeah, it's meant to be longer, but I was ready for it. So yeah, one of the biggest things about Evil, or about getting ready to film it, was how realistic is it to film it, if that makes any sense. Because, again, once I realized this is a feature-length film, I had to make sure I got the best people for the parts. And I also had to make sure everyone's schedule was more flexible, to commit to the days of filming. So, yeah, I mean, I looked at the script, I was like, this is a romance movie, this is not like an action movie, this is not something that required more, like special effects, I guess you can say, or more, like, it wasn't more intense, there wasn't a car chase or anything like that, you know what I'm trying to say? So, Evil was more dialogue-driven, so it was more easier to film. At the same time, it was something that was easier to make, considering that there was a pandemic. That was another thing about Evil, where it was like, will the pandemic shut down making Evil? Or will it help? And I realized it did help. The pandemic did help make Evil more, easier to make. That I will elaborate more on in the episode where I talk about the filming. But short answer, yeah, it did. And yeah, like I said before, like, I was ready to make the feature-length film. I've done 13 films that max 20 minutes, 25 minutes. So by the time I got to my 14th film, which is my first feature-length film, I was ready for it, And that's what it all is about. If you're ready to make that feature-length film, go ahead and do it. All you really need is a good story and, I guess, reliable equipment. You gotta make sure your camera works. And also, make sure the actors are willing to participate in it. And in my case, all the boxes were checked. So yeah, that's pretty much it for episode 1 of The Making of Evil. I hope you guys enjoyed this. And yeah, I'll see you guys in episode 2. Have a nice day.
Yeah, ooh, baby, why you looking so smooth, baby? I'ma make you my new lady, 'cause you're making my mind go crazy, yeah, yeah.